Welcome to BIA, Becoming in Action, a space where reflection meets action, because becoming is a practice. Please welcome your host, Sandy Abair.
Hello, I am Sandy Abair, and welcome to the podcast, BIA, Becoming in Action. This is a space for people who are becoming as leaders, as professionals, and as human beings. We never really fully arrive in our lives, and I wanted to create a podcast to support that ongoing process of becoming. This first episode is all about me, my background, who I am, and how I came to be making this podcast. So starting at the beginning, not quite at the very beginning, but going back a ways, as a child, I always wanted to be a psychologist and help people. Not sure how I got this idea in my head, but it was there from a pretty young age. Such a young age that when I tried to look up psychology in our encyclopedias, I was looking under S instead of P. As I moved on to my undergraduate, it was no surprise that I declared my major as psychology. I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do, and I took a variety of classes. And as someone who always enjoyed school, I loved so much of what I did in undergraduate. From Shakespeare to fencing to the study of totalitarianism, I thought it was all great. But I did find myself particularly drawn to some really awesome professors that happened to be industrial organizational psychologists, which isn't a surprise because the school that I did my undergrad at has one of the top PhD programs in the country in IO psychology. And they were just really great people and amazing professors. They gave me some very unique and special opportunities that I embraced fully. So I ended up really being steered away from psychology and therapy to more psychology in the workplace. And I did an undergraduate honors thesis that ended up being published in the Journal of Applied Psychology as part of a multiple study paper. So the next step just seemed natural to enter into a doctoral level program. I tried one program and then another, and ended up doing 3.5 years of work and loved everything that I learned. I loved the research, the writing, statistics, the human aspect. But the deeper I got into the program, the more I realized I was setting myself up for a career that I didn't particularly want. I couldn't see myself at a publish or perish school. Graduate school was so intense with crazy hours. I just didn't want to continue that level of work because I knew I wanted a family and I wanted more balance. I also couldn't see myself at a school where I'd be teaching Psych 101 week after week. Just didn't feel like something I would find rewarding. And for lots of reasons, I didn't really want to do IO psychology in industry. Just didn't appeal to me. So I started thinking about what's next and didn't have to think about it very long before I got an opportunity. My mom had her own business doing healthcare IT consulting, and she needed some help. And I thought, I can do that. I can use a lot of the same skills I've been using and do this for a little while till I figure out what's next. It turns out I liked it a lot, and it was what was next for 25 years primarily. I stayed in healthcare IT with just brief stints in banking IT and talent acquisition, which was back to my IO roots. So it's funny, careful where you go, you'll stay there longer than you ever imagined. But it really was a good career, and I've had the opportunity to work with so many great people and really use my skill set fully and continue to develop it. But regardless of my job title or what organization I was working at, I've always considered myself a social scientist at heart. I am keenly interested in people and relationships, how we get things done through people, and how all problems are really people problems. I've always gone out of my way to mentor, coach, and provide feedback. And I did this with people who reported to me, people who didn't report to me. I just think it's really important that we continue to grow and learn, and we need feedback to be able to do that. It's fascinating to me that while we learn so much in school, we don't really learn much about relationships, our relationship with ourselves, and our relationships with others. I have watched people struggle, myself included, with identity, transitions, alignment. I'm just passionate about trying to help people navigate these areas. There just aren't enough spaces for honest human conversations about growth. And it's hard to be human. Throughout my career, it just seemed like we were so busy trying to get the actual work done that it was hard to focus on these things. So you're just cramming in little bits and pieces where you can. There's just never enough space. So fast forward to November 2025. It was an interesting day for me. I woke up, it was Veterans Day. I was excited, had the day off, was planning on spending it with my husband, Gerard. I worked out and showered, and when I got out, I thought, gosh, I must have gotten shampoo in my eye. It was watery and red and irritated, but I just kind of played it off and we got going with our day. As the day progressed, I noticed I was unable to close my right eye independently of my left eye. And then I went and looked in the mirror and noticed the right side of my face is really not moving. Looks like I had Botox on half of my face and couldn't afford the other half. Couldn't raise my eyebrow, couldn't really smile. It was not moving. Called my doctor and my primary care physicians, just wonderful. And they were able to get me in right away. Went in, and here it turns out it was Bell's palsy. I didn't really know what Bell's palsy was, and it is temporary, hopefully, paralysis on one side of your face, and in my case, it was the right side of my face. It's caused by a virus, as far as they know, and let me tell you, it was shocking to look in the mirror and just not recognize myself. The doctor gave me antivirals and steroids. That's a standard treatment for 10 days, and said it just has to heal on its own and it can take up to 6 months. I was like, 6 months? Are you kidding me? I mean, it was hard eating and drinking. I had to use a straw because the liquid just would fall out. It was really challenging. I had to take my eyes shut at night. I decided to take 3 days off of work the rest of the week to try to adjust to what was happening, try to figure out how to cope with my new reality. 2 days later, I got an invite from my boss's boss for an urgent but brief meeting about the team at 9 a.m. Even though I was off sick, I was like, well, this seems important. I texted my boss and said, hey, you know what's up? Am I being let go? And she said, no. I got on the Teams meeting and I indeed was let go of my job. I had been at this company for 13 years and they did a reorg, reduction in force, and I was out. Oof. It was a gut punch. I loved my work. I loved my team. I had really put my heart and soul into this company for 13 years. I didn't really feel ready to move on. I had so much I was working on that I wanted to complete and I was excited about. I won't lie, it hurt, and it hurt badly. And this was just one thing in a series of many things that had happened over the last 2 years. We had, as a family, a really challenging couple of years in all kinds of different ways. Our oldest son, Grant, is 26. He had graduated from undergrad and went to work in Chicago and was really thriving and loving things. He is now in an MBA program, but he has ventured outside of Ohio where we live, like way outside of Ohio. He is living a very different life from us. His world is huge. He is going places I've never been to and probably never will go to. He is doing things I have never done. And it really forced me to grapple with some feelings of inadequacy and come to terms that what I have to offer is what I have to offer. And it is enough. And this was never Grant's issue by any means. It was certainly mine. I had to learn how to navigate showing up for this adult child of mine who is living this different life and figuring out what parenting looked like. And it took me some time to adjust. People don't talk about this phase of parenting very much. And it was a new challenge, and it was one that took effort, and I'm still working through. Our middle son, Drew, is 25. He graduated from college and moved to Madison, Wisconsin in 2023. He was really excited to start building the life he wanted in a community he loved, excited about his job, and he started, building up this life that he was really liking until his life took a major left turn. He had a 6-month mental health crisis that resulted in a hospitalization, a bipolar diagnosis, and needing to move back home to Ohio. He has experienced a lot of loss, and he's working hard to move forward. But it's been hard for him, and it's been hard for our whole family. I mean, it impacts our entire family. He struggles, he's irritable a lot, and he takes it out a lot on me because I'm the mom, and I know that I am his safe space to let it all hang out. But it can really hurt sometimes, and I am figuring out when and how to hold him accountable. It's tricky. Where's the line between mental health issues and just poor treatment of me? It's a hard thing. There's no cut and dried answer, and it's something that we're navigating through. And then we have our youngest, Luke. He's 14. He was the big surprise. He is a really different kid than my older two. He has been a type 1 diabetic since he was 7 years old. He is a freshman now, starting high school, and he has grown up and started to come into his own this year in lots of ways. One of the most significant is he has primarily taken over the responsibility of his diabetes care, which is a big adjustment for all of us. I mean, it's great that he feels confident and capable to deal with it, but he doesn't always prioritize getting it done in a timely manner. Sometimes he just forgets, and he gets really annoyed when we remind him to dose or change his pod or change his sensor. And it's a huge responsibility with life and death consequences. So we're trying to figure out how do we empower him, but also make sure he's properly supported so that 4 years and he goes off to college, he's ready and prepared to be way more independent than he is today. These are just our top headlines. We've had all kinds of subplots going on throughout these past 2 years. Grant had an emergency appendectomy when he was in Omaha on a business trip. I had to go out there and stay with him for 5 days until he could fly back to New York City where he was living. I ended up having terrible back pain that ended up being debilitating. I wasn't able to walk and had to have surgery 4 days before Christmas 2 years ago. A few months later, Luke broke both bones in his left arm, which is his dominant arm, and it had to be reset 3 times. The 3rd time was with surgery and pins because it just wouldn't stay put. My husband's mom died. Drew had 2 more hospitalizations. My mom and dad have had a variety of health issues that have been fairly significant. And our beloved dog, Leo, died suddenly at 5 years old. And it was really hard. He was my dog. He was my support animal. And losing him was really, really difficult. And I was starting to feel a little bit like Job when just all this had happened. I was like, what else can we heap on top of this pile? And then now I'm unemployed and my face doesn't move and I look like I've had a stroke and I'm going to have to go try to find a new job. Like, wow. Pain is inevitable in life for sure. I like to think that suffering is optional. And there are certain things that suffering is worth it for, right? But not everything. I know the only way through it is through it. And it was time to go through it before I could begin again. I started the process of going through it by asking myself, why did I lose? Why was I not one of the people the company thought was essential? I mean, that's a hard thing to face, a hard conversation with myself. And the next question I asked is like, could I have won? Where did I go wrong along the way? because I needed to understand where I went wrong because I had gone wrong. And the bottom line is, I have always hated managing up because I'm not good at it. I think it feels very fake and very political. And I just feel strongly that I should be able to show up at work and just do a good job. And that is enough. I don't have to kind of market myself or play the game. And it's not enough. While I had great technical skills, I worked well with my team, and I knew how to execute, I struggled to show up authentically with leaders above me. I relied on those above me to set the tone of our relationship. And when I was faced with a leader that didn't try to build any connection with me, I ended up with no connection. And I really held back my authentic self because it felt like they didn't want to get to know me. So as a people pleaser, I guess I'll just do my job and not push it. And because that seems like that's what you want. But when they didn't do it, it didn't happen. So when they were picking their team, I wasn't on it. The question is, could I have won? Well, I'll never truly know the answer to that. But the way I want to think about myself and the way I want to have agency over my life, it's important for me to believe I could have won if I would have shown up as myself and really forged that relationship and managed up effectively. The third question that I asked myself was the most fun and exciting, which was, what now? As I worked through where some of my limiting beliefs came from that led me to losing, it really brought back my passion for helping people navigate these types of challenges and made me want to spend the bulk of my time doing that instead of just the in-between times at a full-time IT job. And I had been thinking about this type of path forward for 10 years. I became very invested and interested in a life coach podcast 10 years ago that was phenomenal. And it never felt like it was the right time to pursue that. Now just really felt like the right time to set a new path and a new focus. But first things first, I need to heal from the Bell's palsy. I felt like I couldn't move forward with my face the way it was. My speech wasn't even as clear as it needed to be. It was impacting me pretty dramatically on the inside and out. I was so lucky to have a friend, Lori, recommend that I go to see her sister-in-law who does traditional Chinese medicine. I had no idea that acupuncture and herbs could help with Bell's palsy, and I was so glad that she educated me. A huge shout out to Tamara TCM in Maumee, Ohio. If you are in the area, definitely look her up. She's fantastic. She helped me heal 100% from the Bell's palsy in just 6 weeks. I cannot recommend her enough. She is just phenomenal. At the same time as I was going through that healing process, I enrolled in a coaching certification program. The program I enrolled in was recommended by that same friend, Lori. Thank goodness she came into my life last year. She has been a godsend in this season. She had gone through the same program and really recommended it. And when I reached out to their admissions, they coincidentally had a cohort starting the next week, which they don't have cohorts starting very often. If I didn't get on this bus, the next one wasn't leaving for 6 to 9 months later. While I have done a lot of coaching and mentoring throughout my professional career, I really wanted to deepen my knowledge, skills, and abilities. And I am always someone who wants to enhance my craft. I embarked on a 3-day, 30-hour course and am continuing forward with their certification program. And it's been fantastic. So out of all of this, BIA Personal Coaching was born. I am so excited to be starting my own practice. The name BIA comes from the Greek goddess of force and power. For me, I want this to represent not the power over others, but the inner strength it takes to speak honestly, to set boundaries, and to move forward with intention. Becoming in Action, besides using BIA as an acronym, also focuses on the fact that growth requires both reflection and movement. Because awareness without action doesn't change anything, and action without awareness isn't really sustainable. Becoming is a practice. And with any practice, we need some lessons. I want to do this podcast to be part of those lessons. I want to put out a podcast about every other week to help myself and anyone else who wants to join along to focus on growing. Again, growing as a leader, growing as a professional, and just growing as a human being. The episodes will range between 10 and 20 minutes. And to start with, will probably just be solo reflection endeavors. But I'm hoping to have conversation and interviews with others, as well as some book reviews. I've been reading a ton of really great books that I'd love to recommend and provide some insight on. In general, I'm interested in exploring identity shifts, showing up as yourself, leadership from the inside out, navigating change, and career transitions. This is not about perfection or hustle. It's about pausing to have honest reflection and thoughtful growth. If this sounds like a journey you're interested in going on, please follow me, subscribe. Love to have you along the journey. Or if you know someone who's in a season of becoming, please share it with them. If you want to learn more about BIA, visit biapersonalcoaching.com. I'd love to connect. In the words of George Bernard Shaw, life isn't about finding yourself. It's about creating yourself. So come along on this journey with me as we think about creating ourselves and becoming.